Thanks, Maddie. So I'm just here at the library building where the event, the talk just concluded. Some students are filing out here just to my right. But I have here with me Dr. Corey Street, who is the Senior Director of Programs and Operations at the University of Southern California. And she was the main speaker at the event today. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Great.
So it's very compelling, but the theme today is building empathy in an increasingly violent world. When we have shootings like the one at Thousand Oaks in Southern California last week, before that, the Pittsburgh shooting at the synagogue, how exactly do we do that?
Well, building empathy and what we try to help our students to understand is you have to recognize someone else has a perspective. You have to be able to see their feelings and articulate them back, and do that all without judging. And we can do that through humanizing each other. And we find that the testimonies in our Visual History Archive, which are life histories of individuals from more than 60 countries, talking about hope, love, and resilience, can really help us to do that. In the situation with the shootings, we've actually just been working with the students from Marjory Stoneman Douglas. And that was the shooting in Florida last February. And they were actually using eyewitness in our testimonies in their classroom at the time of the shooting. And they talk about how those stories of resilience have helped them in overcoming, helped them to understand what they're experiencing as we see more increasing mass violence. But the more that we can humanize each other, the less we're going to hate each other. And that one hopes the less we hate each other, if we have empathy for each other, the less we'll shoot each other.
And in your talk, you also mentioned having empathy and building that for the perpetrator. Tell us why that's important.
That came up by a scholar who works at USC asking us about our desire to have students develop empathy. Well, you don't, kind of challenging us that, well, surely we wouldn't want that. But in fact, we do. We want people to develop empathy, an empathetic understanding of each other, regardless of who they are, regardless of what they did. If you can understand how an ordinary person decides to join the Nazi Party and decides to be part of a systematic murdering of Jews in World War II, or you can understand what drove someone to be a member of a killing group in Rwanda during the genocide. If you can start to understand their perspective, not sympathize with it, not agree with it, but to do that without judging, you will start to understand how we get to those places, and then you can understand how to counter those kinds of causes. And I think we see that happening with the students we work with, but it's really about building that understanding. And it's hard, it's vulnerable, it's difficult work, but it has amazing results.
And both the shootings I mentioned happened in the United States, but Toronto, Canada are certainly not immune to gun violence. Toronto police data shows us we've had almost 400 shootings in this year alone. The most recent one was earlier this month. So my question is, what conversations should we be having both in the States and here in light of events like the ones that just happened last week?
Yeah, well, personally, I think we should be having a lot of conversations about access to guns and things. But beyond that, in the places that I work, we need to start to be talking about how we are not able to have civil conversations anymore. What is creating the disconnects across society that are marginalized individuals, that are sending them into radical spaces that are resulting in violent extremism and whatever type of violent extremism that can be happening. If we can understand those causes, I think we'll have a better chance of disrupting the consequences that are happening with the gun violence or with the use of the truck on, last year with the truck driving into the individual. And so, those kinds of things, when we understand what's happening, they're generally, those people are marginalized. They're not there's a disconnect. How do we undermine that disconnect? We undermine that through empathy, through humanizing those individuals. If those people are humanizing the people they're attacking, they're not attacking them because they're just like us. If I look across the partisan political stage and I see that you're like me as opposed to you're not like me, we're going to have a lot more energy to talk to each other because we're going to agree more than we disagree about things. And when we do disagree, we're going to do so respectfully. We're going to do so with compassion. And that's not going to descend into these kind of violent situations.
My last question is one key question you were talking about, or actually the title of this as well, is what is stronger than hate? What's your answer to that?
So many things are stronger than hate. I think together we're stronger than hate. Love's stronger than hate. Empathy is stronger than hate. Education, frankly, is stronger than hate. The more we can learn and learn about each other, the harder it is to hate each other. So I think there are so many things that can be stronger than hate, and we just have to focus on those.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me at Ryerson.
Thank you. So if you missed Dr. Corey Street's talk just the hour that just passed, she is remaining at Ryerson today for a second talk at 5 o'clock. It will be on the third floor of this building about genocide testimonies and how we can use that and technology to combat identity-based hatred. That's it for us here. For the Ryersonian, I'm Cindy DeLucu. Maddie, back to you in the studio.